March is Women's History Month. Here are 5 women who helped change the world with their writing. Little context though. In 1866, an organization known as the Ku Klux Klan began. First organized in Tennessee, it spread to mostly every state, and their membership included mayors, judges, and sheriffs. Well, that made it very difficult for people to receive any justice, especially next year when 535 African Americans were lynched. But that didn't stop Ida B. Wells. While living in Memphis, Wells became co-owner and editor of a local black newspaper called the Free Speech and Headlight. She condemned violence against blacks, disenfranchisement, poor schools, and the failure of black people to fight for their own rights. So when, in 1892, Tom Moss, a respected black store owner, was lynched along with 2 of his friends, Wells put her own life at risk and spent 2 months traveling the South gathering information on other lynching incidents. Then, in 1898, Wells brought her anti-lynching campaign to the White House, leading a protest in Washington, D.C., and calling for President William McKinley to make reforms. She later helped to form the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Nellie Bly. In 1885, the Pittsburgh Dispatch declared that a woman's domain should be at home. Elizabeth Cochran wrote a searing letter to the newspaper in response, and her letter so impressed the editor that they offered her a job. Cochran took on a pen name based on a popular song and became Nellie Bly. Although she exposed sweatshop conditions for women, as well as becoming a foreign correspondent in Mexico, Bly was often regulated to women's pages, asking to write about shopping and flowers. So she took off for New York City, where she got a job at the New York World, but only if she wrote about Blackwell Island's mental asylum for women. She went undercover, impersonating a madwoman, and came back from Blackwell Island 10 days later with stories of cruel beatings, ice-cold baths, and forced meals that included rancid, rotten butter. Bly exposed corruption and injustice of poverty, revealing shady lobbyists, the ways in which women prisoners were treated by police, the inadequate medical care given to the poor, and much more. The late 1800s were known for being an age of industry. One industrialist was John D. Rockefeller, who helped create Standard Oil. While Rockefeller donated millions to charity, he employed some shady business practices. One was known as the Cleveland Massacre, in which dozens of small oil producers in Ohio and western Pennsylvania faced a daunting choice: either sell to Rockefeller or face ruin. At the age of 14, Ida Tarbell witnessed this massacre and would later be known as the woman who took on a tycoon and helped ignite the progressive era in American history. In her 19-part story, and later book, The History of Standard Oil Company, she set out to expose a campaign of corruption in business and political lawlessness by focusing on Standard Oil to illustrate these troubling issues. Public fury over the expose is credited with the eventual breakup of Standard Oil, which later became ExxonMobil and Chevron, after the United States Supreme Court ruled in 1911 that the company was violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. Next is Elena Poniatowski, a French-born Mexican journalist and author specializing in works on social and political issues, like women and the poor. She left France for Mexico when she was 10 to escape the Second World War. Despite the lack of opportunity for women in the 1950s to the 1970s, she evolved to writing about social and political issues in newspapers, books in both fiction and nonfiction. Her best-known work is La Noche del Chaleco, or the English translation was titled The Massacre in Mexico, about the repression of the 1968 student protests in Mexico City. She is considered to be the Mexico's grande dame of letters and is still an active writer. Finally, Betty Friedan. She broke new ground by exploring the idea of women finding personal fulfillment outside their traditional roles. Friedan advocated for an increased role for women in the political process and is remembered as a pioneer of feminism and the women's rights movement with her book, The Feminine Mystique. Friedan did more than just write about confining gender roles. She became a force for change. She co-founded the National Organization for Women, otherwise known as NOW, in 1966, serving as its first president. These women revealed that with the power of voice, you can change the world.